I've decided that I'm going to become a car dealer, and in this video you're going to find out if I succeed or fail. As part of my new business venture, I'm going to show you just how easy it is to import some banned cars here into the UK and then sell them for a profit. Well, at least I hope a profit. To do this, I'll get my friend at Autocom Japan to win me some cars at auction in Japan that can no longer be sold in Britain and then send them to me on a boat. You'll see which cars I choose and why, and the process for getting them here to the UK and making them road legal. And finally, I'm going to incorporate my own dealership business so I can sell cars to the general public. But will I make a profit, or will things go horribly wrong and I'll end up making a huge loss? I guess we're gonna find out. So which banned cars have I chosen to import? Well, one I already own myself, a Suzuki Jimny. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute, Suzuki Jimnys, they're not banned, there's loads of them in the UK. Well, they sort of are banned, and it's all down to emissions.
You see, a piece of European legislation called the ZEV mandate, aimed at reducing overall CO2 output from brand new passenger cars, means that manufacturers face huge fines if their average CO2 per car is above 95 grams per kilometre of carbon dioxide. So where does the Jimny fit in? It's small, slow and light. Surely emissions are low.
No, this 1.5 litre natural aspirated engine only has a meagre 101 horsepower, yet it puts out a relatively high for its size 173 grams per kilometre of carbon dioxide.
To put that into perspective, that's about the same emissions as a 330 horsepower Volkswagen Golf R. But with Volkswagen, these emissions get averaged out across its massively diversified and low emission fleet.
Suzuki, meanwhile, doesn't sell that many cars in Europe, and it's only just introduced its very first zero emission vehicle, the e-Vitara. So a while back, it had to restructure its entire product lineup in Europe and the UK to remove the higher emitting vehicles such as the Suzuki Swift Sport, the Ignis and the Jimny, in order to come in at under that average 95 grams per kilometre figure.
That's because fines for not hitting the target are extreme. £15,000 for every extra ICE vehicle sold. And as the Jimny proves so popular in the UK, selling lots of them would be a bad thing because it would cost Suzuki lots of money, not make it lots of money. So the car was axed.
But I personally hope to profit from the situation because the rule does not apply to vehicles that have already been registered abroad. So I'm going to import a bunch of new pre-reg Jimnys to the UK because the cars are still on sale over in Japan because Japan doesn't have the ZEV mandate, and I just love importing cars from Japan, such as my glorious Toyota Century. The cars I'm going to import are going to be the proper highly spec'd 4-seater versions of the Suzuki Jimny. Yeah, because you want 4 seats, right, don't you? Not the poorly spec'd 2-seater only models that are actually vans. And the reason you can still get those van-based Jimnys is because, being commercial vehicles, they're actually outside the scope of the ZEV mandate. When you look online, you can see the low mileage official UK Jimny vans fetch good money, and used versions of the official UK 4-seater cars in top specification SZ5 trim are even more. My little Jimny is 5 years old and it's done just under 9,500 miles. I bought it in 2020 for around £22,000 with options. Do you know what? I reckon I could sell it today for about £27,000. Some profit in that. The scarcity and popularity of these little cars has bumped up the prices. In fact, I found a similar car to mine, but a year older and with 45,000 miles on the clock, up at almost £27,000 on CarWow. Now, I admit that that car does have larger aftermarket wheels, but mine has more extras, including upgraded Suzuki grille, roof bars, silver trim here, here and here, an upgraded gear knob and reversing camera, a tow bar, and front and rear diff guards, which are totally pointless because I've never taken this car off-road. I've also never towed with it or even put anything on its roof. Now, I know that my official UK Jimny will be worth more than the equivalent Japanese import, but what about if I've got a brand spanking new Japanese import? Probably worth about the same amount, so potentially £27,000. But whether I'm going to make a profit or not will all depend on getting the right cars at the right price and not spending too much on them to get them prepped for sale.
And that's where my friend, a man from Autocom Japan, comes in. Him and his team source the finest cars from auctions and dealers all across Japan and then exports them worldwide.
Hey man, how are you?
Hey Matt, I'm doing great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I've been enjoying the cars that you sorted me out, my Century and my S660, but now I have another ask for you. I want to try to become a car dealer by importing some Jimnys, and you're the guy to help me. Now, in particular, I want the Suzuki Jimny Sierra, I think you call it in Japan, because the normal Suzuki Jimny just has what size engine?
660cc engine. Suzuki Jimny Sierra has 1.5 litre engine.
And that's the one that's the same as in the UK, isn't it?
Correct.
In the UK, manual transmissions for the UK cars are the most popular, but I see that a lot of the imported cars, they all have automatics. And what's the split manual to automatic on the auctions right now?
I would say over 90% of Jimny Sierras in the auctions are automatic transmission.
I still would like, ideally, to get manuals if you can get me manuals. If you can't, auto's fine, but really push for the manuals unless the cost goes too much. Next is the colour. There's 4 colours I kind of like. So there's black, which we have in the UK, and there's beige, which we have in the UK. But I'd really also love a grey one and a jungle green, because we don't have those in the UK, and I think they'll sell well. Ideally under 1,000 miles, but I don't mind if one say under like 5,000 miles. How many cars are available for auction, and when's the next auction?
By tomorrow afternoon, I'm sure we will have some units sorted out for you.
All right, cool. Well, I'll see you tomorrow then.
The next day.
Hello again, mate. You all right?
Great, good news. We got all 4 Jimnys that you wanted, 3 manual and 1 automatic. The automatic one is in beige color, the manuals are in green, gray and black colors.
3 manuals.
Plus, the mileages are quite low, except one, which has 1,800 miles, but the rest are all in delivery mileage.
Okay, which one is the one with the slightly higher mileage?
It's a manual transmission, green color.
Well, I think that one is going to be easy to sell anyway in that colour.
Now the cars will be delivered to our yards and will be prepared for export.
Great work, by the way. So how long until I get the cars?
I think you will get them in your hands within 2 months.
Cheers once again, mate. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good luck with being a car dealer.
Aman's team then set about preparing the cars for export, sorting the important documentation and sending them to be loaded onto a boat.
I was given 2 options for the transit. I could either put them on a container ship or on a roll-on, roll-off ship.
Also known as a ro-ro, this is like a floating car park. Cars are driven up ramps into the ship and secured inside on multi-level decks using straps and chocks to stop movement. Fully enclosed, they're protected from the elements. Once docked at ports like Southampton, cars are simply driven off. Meanwhile, a container ship transports vehicles inside large metal boxes. Cars are loaded into the containers, often with wheel straps or wooden bracing, to keep them secured during transit. Multiple cars can be packed into one container if space allows. The sealed containers are lifted onto a ship using cranes, stacked and locked in place for the journey, and then removed by cranes at the other end.
With a ro-ro, you pay per vehicle. With a container ship, you pay per container. And you can actually squeeze, believe it or not, 4 Jimnys into one container.
Doing this isn't easy. The loading crew in Japan actually have to strap 2 of the Jimny's noses up in the air by the front wheels so the other 2 Jimnys can fit in underneath them. It's a very, very tight fit, but it works. Just.
While the packaging was amazing, turns out I would regret this cost saving later on because the crossing wasn't plain sailing.
Speaking of plain sailing, I need to make sure that my UK Jimny sails through its MOT, which is in a few days. I don't want it to fail on anything daft, so I've given it the once over, checking all the obvious stuff. I remembered that I hadn't replaced the windscreen wipers in the 5 years that I've owned this car, and they're not looking too good, and I don't want it to fail the MOT for this, so I went to gsfcarparts.com and got some new ones. I went for GSF's own Drive Tech range because I wanted good quality at a great price, and their wipers actually start from as little as £2, but I thought I'd treat myself to the Aero Flat ones, and they're still only £6.65. Plus, I used the code MW25 for a cheeky little discount. Every little helps, right? They posted them out to me quickly for less than £4. If you spend over £25 with them, postage is free. So if you need some parts for your car, head to gsfcarparts.com and use the code MW25 for up to 25% off. Don't forget that, MW as in Matt Watson. You're 25% off. If you want to do that right now and you want some parts, then you can just click on the pop-out banner appearing in the top right-hand corner of the screen or scan the QR code on screen now. Alternatively, click the link in the description of this video or the pinned comment. Right, I'm going to get the new wipers onto my car. There we go, nice and easy. To the other side, and then take this car to its MOT. Then just wait for my imported Jimnys to arrive, which thankfully won't need an MOT. My Jimneys took about 2 months until they arrived at the port of Southampton. Once there, a handling company unpacked them from the container, processed them through customs, paying the necessary VAT, and then delivered them to a workshop nearby that I'm using to prep them for UK registration.
I think these are my Jimneys here. I'm pretty excited about this. I've been waiting for them to arrive for ages. Only problem is I'm not sure which is my grey one. Let's have a quick look at this one. This seems to be being worked on because it's got a speedo remove, so this must be mine. Let's have a look at it. Love this colour. Don't get it in the UK. It looks really smart. So the UK seat pattern's different than this. In Japan you get this yellow texture and it feels nicer than the one in my car.
When buying at auction in Japan, you can't always be sure of the exact options that may have been fitted to the car either at the factory or by the first owner or dealer that pre-registered it.
This seems to have something that I wasn't expecting, like this cup holder here and a special place for your mobile phone up on there. Also, it appears that this one has rear parking sensors. Like I said, didn't know that it would have that. There's no infotainment system though. I think I'm going to have to fit an aftermarket one, though some people just sell them with that and let buyers just decide what they want to do.
Unlike my official UK Jimny, even top specification Japanese models have a blank panel instead of an infotainment screen. That's because buyers often just use their phones for audio and navigation or fit their own systems. This keeps the cost down and adds flexibility. So some UK importers install a system before selling, but others don't. I'm undecided. It might help resell, but it could cut into profit.
Now I think this is my other one, this black one here. This has the upgraded grille. That's what I've got on my Jimny, so it looks like mine. I like that. That's different. I think in the UK, the cars have just like black plastic, but not on the Japanese ones, it's different. This one actually has a stereo that's been fitted. I'm not sure whether that's going to be in Japanese or not. We'll find out in a bit. It looks like this one's already had a bit of work done to it, and look, there's a parking sensor. And look at this on here. It's got Bluetooth. That's obviously for that. So this has delivery mileage, that has delivery mileage. This is the other one with delivery mileage, and this one, if you look in here, this is the auto. I only got one auto. Now, a lot of people are actually selling the autos because they're easier to get in Japan, but I think most Brits are going to want a manual, but it'd be interesting to see what this is like to sell.
In fact, there are 150 auto Jimneys up for auction today in Japan, but only 20 manuals. And when you look at the number of imported Jimneys for sale here in the UK, almost all are actually automatics. So I'm hoping that being rarer will make my Japanese import manual models more desirable to UK buyers, as most official UK Jimneys are manual. That's clearly the preferred option. And that begs the question, will this automatic model prove to be a problem, especially as it's lacking the parking sensors of the other two cars and has no extras? Well, apart from one.
What's all this about? Weirdness. Other than that, it's kind of what I'm expecting. Right, and this is the other one. This is the one that's got 3,000 kilometers on it, the green one. So what's going on in this one? That doesn't have parking sensors. It does have a stereo though, and the Bluetooth on it. Unlike the UK cars, these have keyless go, so you start them with a press of a button. And you get a little bit of Japanese. So we've got Japanese clocks and everything, which will need to be sorted, which we'll be doing in a moment. So this is the key, actually. This has got like some shroud on it. That's the key, keyless go, and you can lock it by pressing this button. There's something else that's different. Oh, actually, I don't think I've locked it. Turned it on. Operator error. Wait a minute, what's this? Looks like it's got a dash cam fitted to it as well. That's handy. Oh, that's interesting. It's another thing that's different on the Japanese cars. They've got this extra bit to the mirror, so if you look around this bit, you'll see you've got this extra mirror there for reversing at the curb. Oh, and what's this? So it looks like you've got heated mirrors. Don't think my UK car has that. Someone has obviously done some modifications, stop the rain getting in when you open your window a bit when driving along. The Japanese love that stuff. Anyway, we need to go find the owner of this place, Lee.
Lee Allen has been processing imported cars for 26 years from his unit by the docks in Southampton. He receives the cars once they've cleared customs and performs all the work required to make them road legal in the UK, from carrying out modifications to prepping the cars for and then taking them to the necessary tests to finally registering them and fitting number plates so they're good to go.
So Jimneys, are they really popular at the moment?
They are. I'm seeing more and more Jimneys come in.
Really? So I'm going to face some competition trying to sell these things then, I guess.
Yeah.
When did it kick off?
It started getting more popular probably about 4-5 months ago.
How many do you reckon you've done?
At least 60 of them already.
Oh dear. Okay. You got these cars out of the container.
I went and collected them from the people that took them out of the container. I don't take them out of the container myself because that's another job that I don't have the facility to do, basically.
Lee went on to tell me that 2 of my Jimneys would need a bit of extra work to get them ready for sale as they've been damaged during transit.
These metal straps here are what suspend them in the air. They go through the wheels and it seems to have rubbed on the wheel, just down here.
Oh yeah, you can see there, and there. Wait, there's only more, and there.
Yeah, and the other wheel, the other side.
Why on earth would they string the cars up with just metal?
They don't string it up with just metal. They do have a rubber shroud going over it, but obviously, as the car's in a container and you're going across the sea, the car will move. So it starts moving like this on the straps, and eventually it will rub through.
Is there anything else? Any other damage, or is that it?
A little scratch on the door on this vehicle as well. Right here, it's a tiny little scratch.
That'll polish out, won't it?
That should polish
We don't know that that's from the container though, do we?
We don't know
It's a
where
used
that's,
car.
yeah.
Okay, so all of that to fix the wheels is going to be like put into the costs, and that's going to eat into my profit, but we'll find out how much exactly a little later on. Damn! So this is one of the plastic shrouds that went round the metal suspension cable. And as you can see there, just like Lee said, it's been worn away there, and that's why it's damaged the alloy wheel. I have my evidence here. When you ship a car, it's not usually insured unless you pay for maritime cover. Without that, compensation's capped at around £1,000, and only if you can prove that the shipping company has been negligent. That's where my evidence may help. If another company rather than the shipping company itself packed the cars into the container though, claiming gets trickier and the repairs will have to come out of my pocket. But that wasn't the only issue I noticed. I noticed that all the cars have come with their rear seats folded, and that's not great because when you fold down the rear seats, the headrest there presses into the seat base, and if you look, can you see that indentation? Now I had that when I bought my original Jimny because they put the spare wheel in the back with the seat folded. Hopefully that will go over time. But why do they do this? But at least the people packing the cars into the container did do something right, and it relates to those weird things I found earlier. These were suspended off the grab handles and they absorb the moisture, and also we had these things in the car, and look how full they are with water, so they've clearly done their job, because I've got to tell you, there is no damp smell in any of these cars and everything feels nice and dry. I don't know why, but this beige Jimny doesn't have any floor mats, not in the front, none in the back. The other cars do, and I was just thinking maybe someone's stolen them out of this car. Doesn't even have the attachments to the mats here in the front driver's footwell. So I think they were never fitted from factory. Obviously hasn't been spec'd up with them. So that's another cost I'm gonna have to add to this car. Now though, I need to get my imported Jimnys legal for road use, and that involves jumping through some official hoops. For any imported car that's over 10 years old, like this one was, all you have to do is get them through an MOT to be able to register to drive them on the road. The same applies to unmodified vehicles imported from the European Union, so long as they come with a certificate of conformity. Now, a certificate of conformity is issued by the vehicle's manufacturer to confirm that the vehicle meets European type approval standards for emissions, safety, and environmental regulations. So this is the certificate of conformity for my 911 ST, and it details things such as the VIN number, the engine size, the weight, and the emissions class. I had better not lose this. However, if the car is from outside the European Union and less than 10 years old, it will need to undergo an IVA test to ensure it complies with UK regulations. Inspectors check headlights, fog light positioning, the speedo reading in miles per hour, emissions, seat belts, mirrors, noise levels, VIN plate, brakes, and a lack of sharp edges. Pass the test and you're good to register the car for road use with the DVLA. Cars previously registered in Japan are often easier to get through the IVA test than other right-hand drive cars from, say, places like India or Thailand, because in Japan the cars are built to the same emissions and safety standards as we have in the UK. Often all you really need to do is a few simple mods such as headlight alignment, add a fog lamp and a speedo overlay. They're also easier than left-hand drive cars, say from places like the United States, because once again the USA doesn't have the same safety nor emission standards, and often the American cars come with bigger engines which have higher emissions. But there is one area where you can still get caught out when importing a Japanese car. You'll see the mistake I made later, and it's all down to paperwork. For now though, we need to crack on with preparing the beige Jimny.
So we're going to have to run a wire from the front to the back, install rear fog light on the vehicle, and make sure it's wired up correctly in order to pass the IVA test.
Is there anything else?
Yeah, so we'll check the tyres and we'll check the lights all work, make sure the seat belts work and there's no damage to them. But as the vehicles are fairly new, I think we're going to be safe to say that they're going to be okay.
It's time to get the first Jimny ready for its IVA test, and the first thing that needs to be done is fitting a rear fog light. As in Japan, it's not a legal requirement to have one. To do this, Lee removes the boot storage panel and then the driver's side rear seat. This allows him to then remove the rear right side panel and the right side lower door sill cover, which is where the wiring will route through. Next, he removes the switch panel near the steering wheel, as there is a blank panel there where he can fit the fog light switch. But what parts do we need exactly? So we've got wire
protective shroud for the wire so that it doesn't chafe, because if it did, you won't pass the IVA test. We also have some all-important cable ties. We've got a plug which will wire into the control panel in the lower part of the dash. We've got the fog light switch itself. We have the fog light, which looks rather well used. More on that in a bit. Then we have this thicker wire for actually pushing the thinner wire through the hole in the bulkhead. Let's get to work.
Lee starts off by measuring out the right length of wire, which he knows off by heart. Then he runs it along the right side of the car to the rear, neatly cable tying it onto the existing wiring loom. He then works it up into the dash switch panel and mates it to the switch connector. The side panel and lower door sill trim is then replaced. And finally, the back seat and seat squab refitted. Good work, Lee, but now it's time for an idiot to have a go.
I'm going to fit the fog lamp myself, and I'm going to have to drill some holes in the bumper. So let's go. I'm just going to remove this grommet in here to give me access to the outside of the car. Don't know what it's there for, but it's handy. Now I'm going to get this wire and feed it through that hole. Now I'm going to screw this into the bumper. It's a little bit wonky, but it doesn't matter because that's going to be removed later on. Just feeding the rest of this back inside the car. So this wire there, it's not secure. It's also touching the exhaust. It won't pass the IVA like that. So I need to secure this using a cable tie to this crash bar there. To get this round there, I'm just going to bend it, bite it. That should go round the bar now. There we are. There we go. Job's a good one. Now I'm going to connect the wiring up. So I'll put a terminal onto the earth, give it a clamp. Now I'm going to connect the two lives together. I shall join them with this connector, give them a crimping. I'm going to remove this bolt, use it for the earth, whack that through there. There we go. Now I'm just going to tidy up all the wires in here, make them nice and secure, ready for the IVA.
Next, I refitted the boot insulation panel, which holds the jack and wheel wrench. And then I finally replaced the boot storage tray before moving on to the tricky bit.
We're now going to use this thick bit of wire to push it through the bulkhead, and then we're going to attach a wire which we're going to connect to the headlight, pull it back through the bulkhead, and then connect it to this switch over here.
As it takes a bit of practice, Lee did the hard part to find the right hole, and I pulled the strong wire through. I then attached the electrical wire to it using tape, and Lee pulled that back into the cabin through the bulkhead. He then fitted the all-important shroud, as unprotected wires could chafe, and this will cause an IVA failure. And then we located the headlight connector switch to find the source of the power for the fog light. And we needed to make sure we had the right one, as the IVA rules are very specific.
The fog light power must be taken from a circuit that is live only when the dipped or main beam is on, not just the side lights. It must have a separate switch and not be shared with other functions. It must illuminate when it's on and be visible to the driver. It must automatically turn off when the main beam turns off. Finally, there must be no interference with the brake or indicator lights, and it mustn't pulse nor flash.
It was important for the car to comply with the rules, so selecting the right power feed for the fog lamp was key.
Right, we're just going to check which one is the actual headlight feed. So if you turn the headlights on, oh, no. Oh, there's one there. Turn off the headlights and just leave side lights on. Yeah, okay, so this one here is your headlight. Turn it back on. Yeah, definitely. Got it.
Now we knew which was the dip beam feed, we could splice in the live wire, which leads to the fog lamp, which remember I'd already connected to an earth. Then some more protective shroud was fitted, which was then secured with cable ties. Then Lee connected the live wire into the fog lamp switch and tested that it illuminated properly to show it was working. And finally, it was installed into the switch panel and then the fascia refitted. Now it's time to check the lights work as they should.
So if you put the ignition on and turn the fog light on, right now, can you put the side lights on? And we don't want the fog light to illuminate. Side lights are on, no fog light. Now put the main headlights on and the fog light illuminates. Okay, good. Press the fog light switch to turn it off. That's it, we're good to go.
Actually, we weren't good to go because Lee had to snip the wire on the side indicator repeater to stop it from working. But why the heck would he do that?
You'll notice on my UK specification Jimny, there is just one indicator side repeater here on the wing. There's not an extra one here in the door mirror. On the Japanese cars, you have both. According to the IVA, the test states one repeater per side is required, but extra side repeaters are not allowed.
With the disconnected side repeater replaced, we moved on to the final modification.
The next thing I need to do for the IVA is to switch the speedo so it's in miles per hour. Thankfully, this is just a normal old-fashioned dial. You do have some digital display there which has like the odometer in kilometers an hour and some other information. They're all in Japanese. You can send this away to be fixed and converted all to UK, but it's 300 quid. It's a bit of a faff, and most of this is not much support. Oh dear, we have a warning come up on the dash, which is the crash protection. It's probably because the bonnet's up. But anyway, most of this is all self-explanatory. We don't need to do that. I'm just going to remove the dial. So to do that, I'm just going to drop the steering wheel and then put my hands in here and give it a pull. Give it another pull. That's out. Hopefully all okay. A couple of screws and do some clips. And then this should just lift out like that. There we go. Now I'm going to remove the plastic covering. I'm going to take my glasses off so I can see. Off it comes. And now I need to remove the needle, so I twist anti-clockwise and pull like that. Now I'm going to pull the rev counter off. That's that done. And then remove the dials. There we go. I have the new UK spec ones here. You don't actually have to change the rev counter, but it's so that it matches the speedo that we have here. There's the important one, the speedometer. You fit the speedo slightly loosely. Make sure that when it's in its stop position, it's just on the very bottom of the 0 line, and then push it into place. Now I'm going to fit the covers again. Reconnect the connectors. And finally, replace the fascia. And now we have everything as it should be.
With a speedo in miles per hour, only one indicator per side and a rear fog light, the beige Jimny was ready for its IVA test, which was booked for that day at a nearby testing station. So we fitted some tray plates and headed off quickly to make our slot. But I ended up needing a chauffeur due to legal reasons. I put a call into my insurer to see if I'm covered because I'm not covered under lease policy. They're trying to find out whether I can drive it because it's not registered. A bit confusing. I'm hoping at some point, either in the moment or on the way back from the IVA, I can actually get and drive this little car because I've never driven an automatic of a normal Suzuki Jimny. How are you finding it?
I like them. I think it drives lovely, to be honest.
Would you have automatic or would you have manual?
Me personally, I would have a manual.
Better for off-road.
Yes, definitely.
I've got a phone call. Hello?
Hello there. Unfortunately, it's not good news. That won't cover it under driving other cars cover just because it's registered under trade plates. It's got to be, like a private car. Not sort of commercially owned.
All right, and thank you very much. If I'm going to become a car dealer, I will need to get myself a proper trade insurance policy so I can drive cars on trade plates. That's for another day though. My main focus now is getting my 4 imported Jimnys road legal.
We've arrived at the IVA test centre. I'm going to drive the car in there. We can't actually film inside. They're going to do the test. Hopefully it's going to pass and we should get a certificate, and then this car will be good to be road registered.
We made it just in time for our slot and I drove the car into the testing area. Just over an hour later, it was over. So, what was the result?
Check it out. We have passed. There's our IVA certificate. Hey!
I needed to hold my excitement in, as we needed to zip back to Lee's yard and work on the other 3 cars. Though, as I'd find out, there will be a bit of a problem with this. First though, we needed to undo some of the work we'd just done on the beige car to get it through the IVA. But why?
So we're going to reconnect this side repeater. Now, it doesn't matter that when this car comes to its MOT, which will be in 3 years' time, the fact that you have both these side repeaters going, because it's not part of the MOT, you just have to make sure that if you've got them, they're working. So we're going to connect this back up now. Another thing we're going to do is remove this fog lamp and actually route a fog lamp through the reversing light on the car. So it's going to be on this side of the car, as it's going to be on the driver's side.
So Lee removed the temporary fog lamp, rerouted the cable towards the driver's side tail light cluster and wired in the feed from the fog lamp switch and swapped out the white reversing bulb for a red fog lamp one. Finally, he tested it and it worked perfectly. Then he removed the side repeater and reconnected the wire. So now both side repeaters worked again and the car was done. Then he cracked on prepping the green car for its IVA test, which was in just over 1 hour's time, so I stayed out of the way and let him get on with it. Once it was ready, we headed off to the test centre again, and a little over an hour later, we were back.
Check it out, another IVA certificate.
That's 2 cars done and ready for registration. Now it's time to move on to the final 2. I was actually hoping to get both the grey and black cars also IVA'd that day, but it turns out there was a problem.
What I didn't realise is that there's 2 different types of IVA tests. There's the full test and then there's the basic test. Now you can have the basic test done if the car is more than 6 months old since it was registered in Japan, just like this green Jimny was. But if it's less than 6 months old, like this beige one is, then you have to have the full test done, and that requires a lot more to be examined. This includes full testing of emissions, the braking performance and the safety system, such as pole testing the seat belts, which ruins them, and even crash testing the entire car, rendering it undrivable. Oh, and the process costs about £30,000 and has to be carried out at a specialist facility. So how did I get round this? Once you put a car through that whole process, you get something called a model report. And if someone then wants to IVA the exact same make, model, engine and transmission vehicle, they can use that model report to say, hey look, it complies with the rules, you can just put it through the IVA test without having to go through all that rigmarole and cost again. And what people do once they've got these model reports is rent them out to other people wanting to import similar vehicles. And as someone already had a model report for Suzuki Jimny Sierra automatic in the UK, I was able to rent their model report off them and get this car through its test.
Unfortunately, this wasn't going to be possible for the other 2 cars, and my choice of transmission was the issue.
These cars were registered in December, so they're not quite 6 months old, which means we need a model report for them which vouches their emissions, because they are manual versions and there isn't a model report available for a manual Jimny. So my options were to crash test one of the other manuals and then use that model report to get the other one through the IVA test and pay 30 grand for the privilege, or just wait for a few months until they were both over 6 months old, like this green car.
That would mean I could then put them through the basic IVA test. A no-brainer really. So I decided to leave the black and grey Jimnys with Lee to IVA them at a later date once they're over 6 months old. And then I transported the processed beige and green Jimnys over to my unit in Oxfordshire to get them ready for sale.
You've probably noticed that there's no number plates on these cars. That's because I've decided not to register them yet, and it means that when I sell the cars, the person that buys them will be the first registered keeper. Before I sell the cars, I'm obviously going to have to get the wheels fixed, and I'll probably fit a stereo to this one, and I'm considering having the Japanese digital little display here reconfigured to English. I may even modify these cars with some big lifts and some large wheels, though that could make them harder to sell. Either way, make sure you subscribe to this channel to find out exactly what happens, because I'm going to go into full detail of all the costs, and we'll find out whether or not I made a profit or ended up with a huge loss. Now, if you would like to buy one of my imported Jimnys, you can email me at my new dealership, info@japanesedreammachines.co.uk, and you could be part of the story in the next video. Whoever buys one of my Jimnys will get a free signed copy of my new book, Autobiography and A to Z of Cars by Matt Watson. Now, if you just like a book rather than a car, you can pre-order a signed copy from Waterstones. Now, to do that, just click on the pop-out banner appearing in the top right-hand corner of the screen, or scan the QR code on screen now. There's also a link in the description of this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.